Okay, so for those of you who are unaware of the Jimmy Dore drama, I'm gonna sum up kind of the bottom line, how we got here so far. Okay, so essentially, do I really want to open the door on this? Boo. Um, so essentially, Jimmy Dore has risen in prominence since he kind of co-opted this force the vote movement. Okay, it really turned into more of a vanity project for him to get a bunch of subscribers, and it was very successful for him. um, However, the Young Turks, which Jimmy Dore kind of came up within their network before spinning off, um, kind of wasn't a huge fan of Force the Vote. Now, Jimmy Dore took this incredibly personally and essentially took that as a personal attack. And so he started attacking the Young Turks relentlessly. And one of the particular targets of his attacks was a reporter and journalist who works for TYT called Anna Kasparian. Now, Anna Kasparian, for the most part, was very professional about all of this, didn't really respond to any of these personal attacks, didn't really have much to say. Until, it just kind of went on for months and months, and so she essentially was like, look, she sent Jimmy Dore a DM and was like, look, I've been quiet about, the stuff that happened while you were working here, all of the times you sexually harassed me, all of the incidents that occurred at work, and I'm done. You've been attacking me relentlessly, and I'm just done. I'm gonna talk about this stuff. And essentially, Jimmy Dore has been using that DM. He like throws it up on screen. Has been using that DM to suggest that Anna in the DM was trying to blackmail him. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know how blackmail works, but typically how blackmail works is somebody will be like, hey, I know you did X. If you don't give me Y, I'm going to tell everyone about X. Essentially, blackmail entails an exchange of services or goods that is being coerced by using negative information or a negative revelation about somebody. That's not what happened. We have the DMs thanks to Jimmy Dore. We know that Anna Kasparian did not, in fact, try and blackmail Jimmy Dore. And when I covered this initially, I brought that up. I brought up the fact that, it's kind of weird that he's saying that she tried to blackmail him since she didn't ask for anything and was basically just telling him, hey, you fucked up and now I'm going to tell everyone about the awful shit you did while you were here that I shut up about out of, professional courtesy to you. So, yeah, and essentially, Jimmy Dore then went on to confirm Anna Kasparian's stories about him sexually harassing her at work. Jimmy Dore, his response to being called out for his sexual harassment, which, by the way, included him staring at Anna's ass in front of all of her students and then belittling her in front of said students and the rest of her colleagues for how she dressed. And Jimmy Dore's response was, yeah, I did all that. It was awesome and everybody laughed. Which is not the case. If he had been called out by Anna for that at the time, he would have been fired immediately. Now, this all seems pretty cut and dry. Okay, well, Jimmy Dore sexually harassed a woman and admitted to it, and we can all move on. He's a creep. He's disgusting. Let's move on. Except inexplicably, it seems as if a large portion of the left doesn't understand blackmail and thinks that blackmail is when somebody sends you a DM and just says, I'm going to say stuff about things you did. That's not blackmail. However, that's not preventing people like Kyle Kulinski, for example, from going on and trying to kind of whitewash what Jimmy Dore did. Now, the average length of a Kyle Kulinski video on his channel, Secular Talk, is around like 10 minutes. Like around 10 minutes. Kyle did an hour-long segment on his show. What Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mate got right and wrong about criticizing me. He spends an hour-long segment trying to kind of dance around the fact that, like, oh, I didn't want to get involved. I mean, I'm friends with all the people involved. And while I understand not wanting to get involved in drama in the left, because that's, like, cancerous and awful, when a major figure on the left comes out and says, yeah, I sexually harassed a woman, want to fight about it? And your response is like, well, I mean, well, both sides. No. You don't get to do that. You're like a traitor to your own leftist ideas. Unless those leftist ideas never actually involved, like, any amount of, like, standing up for women who've been sexually harassed. And so, like, we have an entire segment here of Kyle just being like, yeah, I mean, I kind of equivocated, and, you know, I said some things, and, you know, well, you know, yeah, He hems and haws for an hour. We're gonna watch a little bit of it so you get an idea here.
Aaron Mate and Jimmy Dore respond to my segment on their beef with TYT, and I have a lot to say about it. Now, again, let me say up front, there's nothing I want to do less than this segment. I don't want to do this segment at all. But now I feel like I'm in a position where I have to respond. So where there are areas where I think I'm wrong, I'm going to admit it, and I'm going to own up to it, and I'm going to correct the record, and I'm going to apologize. And there are some of those areas. There's 2 areas where I think I'm wrong, and I think Jimmy is owed an apology. There's also a number of areas where I think they're wrong or completely misinterpreting something that happened. So let's dive into all of it. We're going to break it all down. Hopefully this is the last thing I have to say about it, but we'll see. For all we know, we could be responding video to video from now until the end of time. So let's go ahead and start. Take a look at this first clip.
And to be honest, Kyle said a lot of things in there that I was appreciative of him saying. So that was very nice. He said things like, of course, Jimmy's not a right-winger. Jimmy's not a grifter. Jimmy is a guy who's on the left and criticizes the Democrats from those. So that was super helpful that he said all that. And I also, you know, I think yesterday I said it too on the show that I was super grateful to Kyle for his support of Force the Vote. He was the most eloquent defender of Force the Vote, and I was really happy about that. I was really grateful.
All right, so a couple things here. First of all,
by the way, that's Jimmy Dore in a roundabout way saying Kyle kissed my ass during the Force the Vote stuff. And I really like it when Kyle kisses my ass. And I get really angry when Kyle doesn't kiss my ass. As we'll see.
Thank you, Jimmy. My response is the same thing I said previously. I think you're a totally honest actor. I know you believe every single word you say. I know you're super passionate. I wouldn't doubt your integrity for a second.
Yeah, but by the way, I think the left really needs to come to terms with the reality that Force the Vote was essentially a scam. It was essentially a scam that was never politically viable in the first place, and was never, when they built up momentum, actually about forcing the vote. Instead, it was about sending an impotent political message, or it was about essentially stroking the ego of a bunch of these content creators. And I don't believe that's what we should build political movements around. Political movements shouldn't be about stroking your own ego, which is essentially the Jimmy Dore, like, phenomenon. Captain Terrible, thank you for the follow.
I think that the criticisms are absurd when people say you're a right-winger or you're a grifter or whatever. So I just want to establish here, number one, a mutual respect. Number two, a friendship. But number three, and this is probably most important, he's showing here, okay, Kyle is a good faith actor. Kyle's a good faith actor. He's an honest person. What he's saying comes from a good place. He's not malicious. He's not a liar. He's not a smear merchant. You know, he's keeping it real. Okay, so we've established that. Wonderful. I do want you to take note, though. When it's stuff that I agree with them, that's their perception of me. You'll see when there's areas where we disagree, or where they think we disagree, or they don't like something I said or did, all of a sudden that assumption of good faith or that charitable interpretation, it goes out the window. So,
now I do want to say one thing about Kyle Kulinski. I do think that Kyle Kulinski is a good faith actor. I think that Kyle Kulinski does believe a lot of the things that he says. I think that Kyle Kulinski doesn't necessarily have good instincts when it comes to politics, hence him getting caught up in, like, force the vote stuff. And I also think that he has a blind spot when it comes to leftists who are not acting in good faith. Jimmy Dore is not acting in good faith. Jimmy Dore just wants to flex his power to get you to kiss his ass so that he can reinforce his own viewership numbers. That's it. Now, Kyle, I think, goes on to be far, far, far too charitable to Jimmy Dore, and we'll kind of see why I think that.
let's continue. Obviously, I'm going to talk here about the drama between Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mate versus the Young Turks. So I just want to reiterate, I don't want to do this segment. I don't want to talk about it. I've bent over backwards to stay out of this fight. Now, some of you might not like that. I don't care. I don't care. I'll never hide a single thing from any of you when it comes to policy. But when it comes to personal shit, I don't want to get involved in it, and I want to stay out of it.
Okay, now, I'll just briefly comment on that, and we'll talk about it more as we go on, but it was incorrect of him to state it as drama.
All right, so let me be clear. It's not just drama. It's a lot more than just drama. A big part of it is about Syria. A big part of it is about force the vote. A big part of it is about Russiagate. All of these substantive
You're not a
issues.
19-year-old
Now,
twink at NYU.
on the policy stuff, though, nobody has to guess where I'm at. Everybody knows exactly where I'm at. I'm on the record 1,000 times over. But that stuff is important. That stuff is substantive. I will never shy away from that stuff. The reason I call it drama is because of the other stuff. Now we're talking about, rightly or wrongly, we're talking about hashtag Me Too stuff. We're talking about blackmail. We're talking...
Now, I do want to say, Kyle, when someone accuses someone else of sexual assault, that's not drama. And when the other party who is accused says, yeah, I sexually assaulted her, and everyone thought it was funny, that really takes it out of the category of drama and just turns it into, this is a thing that factually happened. It's not like, you flirted with my boyfriend and took my drink at the bar. Like, no. This isn't like Real Housewives shit. This is two people who are major figures on the left, one claiming that the other sexually assaulted them, and the one who's being accused being like, yeah, I did that. that's a much bigger deal than just drama.
Talking about people being
denying war crimes by Russia and Assad is also not drama.
Liars and smear merchants and grifters and right-wingers and corrupt and every negative thing you can think of. When it gets that personal and people are going after integrity and motivations, yes, I'm a lot more hesitant to step in there, because in order for me to comment on that stuff, man, there's so much stuff to unpack. It's hard to unpack everything. It's hard to get back to the root. It's hard to comment on every nook and cranny. So the easier thing is, hey, let me just stay out. I'll stick to the policy stuff, and you guys can handle all that other stuff. Okay, continue. I don't agree with Anna on that. She said that. It was fucked up. But as soon as I read that tweet, I said, uh-oh, here we go. This shit is about to get nuclear, because Jimmy Dore has one gear, and that gear is nuclear.
Okay, and well, let me just show this. So he makes it. I don't get it. It makes it sound like that's a negative. First of all, he shows a bunch of videos where I'm completely level-headed and arguing in good faith for the Young Turks, but which kind of undermines what he just said, that I only have one speed. But here, I don't mind people saying that. That's actually, I take it as a compliment.
Now, so you have him kind of like responding here, like, oh yeah. You know, I'm very level-headed. Me, Jimmy Dore, I never go nuclear. Let me just bring up something here.
Jimmy Dore, welcome back. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for
Minimum wage, or even actually allowance for immigrants. Coming in the middle.
on today was to discuss what's been happening with TYT over the last month or so. It seems like, from the outside looking in. I know that you obviously were on TYT for a while. I actually watched a video of I believe it was before you actually were part of the staff, but I saw Jank interviewing you in about 2010, so that was a little interesting to look back on. But yeah, so I remember the first time you were on the show at the end of 2019, you talked about how you left TYT, and at the time when we spoke, everything seemed pretty amicable, and it was just, time for you to move on. But over the last 6 months or so, it has gotten pretty hostile. So I guess I'm just wondering, what, from your perspective, what kind of started?
Wait, I want not this question. I think it might be the next one.
Just wanted to let people know what false equivalent smear litany for response force acknowledge what we're talking about. It's the Howard take big later.
Remarkably cowardly. And so in this last video, he essentially said the reason that he didn't want to have you on is because he didn't want to ask you a question. So I'm just going to ask you the question that he didn't want to ask you. When you were revealing the blackmail attempt by Anna Kasparian, you used the term that she...
Which I cannot stress enough was not blackmail, because blackmail entails that you are going to withhold information unless, like, you're going to withhold information if somebody pays you. Otherwise, you're going to release it. Which is not what Anna Kasparian said or did in any way, shape, or form.
He was dressing inappropriately. In retrospect, do you think that that was the wrong terminology to use in that response?
The only reason I had to talk about that was because she was fucking blackmailing me. And you're gonna
Not blackmailing. Blackmailing entails an exchange. Saying, hey, I'm gonna talk about this really awful shit that you did, is not blackmail.
nitpick the words that someone who's being in the most sleaziest thing you could do, the thing you can never defend yourself from, you're going to do. She's going to weaponize an incident from 7 years ago. That's an obvious, transparent bullshit. She's going to misuse the hashtags #MeToo thing that makes other women not be fucking believed. And the problem Kyle had was that I said she dressed inappropriately when I had to explain what happened. I'm sorry. I don't.
So we know what the message was between Oh, geez, I minimized, like, everything. What the fuck? Sorry. Sorry, chat. Sorry. My bad. There we go. So we actually know what was said in the message because Jimmy Dore kindly leaked the DM. So this is what Anna Kasparian said. This is the alleged blackmail. I'm sure you remember when you constantly made inappropriate comments about how sexy you found me at work, and even felt the need to ask me where I shop for my jeans so you can buy a pair for your wife, so she dresses better. That was followed by an apology card you wrote me for the degrading harassment. I've been holding back, letting you run your mouth nonstop as you pretend to be some sort of warrior for what's good in the world. That's going to change. This isn't blackmail. This is just saying, hey, you did a lot of awful shit to me. I'm gonna start talking about it. I don't, like, the only way you can believe that this was blackmail, she didn't bring up there was no ultimatum. There was no, like, give me X or I'm gonna tell everybody about this. No, she's just giving her colleague who's been attacking her nonstop for months a heads up that she's gonna start talking about all this stuff. So, Jimmy Dore went on his show and preemptively attacked Anna Kasparian, accusing her of blackmail. And again, if you think this is blackmail, there's something wrong in your brain. You've gotten, like, your brainworms directly from Jimmy Dore himself. You have, like, lost the ability to use your critical thinking abilities. On like, the most basic level, okay? So, let's continue on here.
Because people we need.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Where was the other video that I was playing? Oh, there we go.
Fucking apologize for that, and what he did was bullshit, and it should what a bullshit thing. I'm not responding to a fucking sleazy blackmail thing properly. I'm not using the proper words. Is that really the accusation? Yes, that was the accusation.
Are these the eyes of someone who would lie to you? Are these the eyes of somebody who would claim something's blackmail when it's not? I don't think so. These are perfectly trustworthy, non-hyperbolic eyes.
When I had to explain what happened, I'm sorry. I don't fucking apologize for that. And what he did was bullshit. And it should what a bullshit thing. I'm not responding to a fucking sleazy blackmail thing properly. I'm not using the proper words. Is that really the accusation? Yes, that was the accusation. And of course I showed Kyle Kalinske to be a complete full fucking outrage pearl clutcher because he had tweeted at Anna Kasparian before, hey, why don't you masturbate on camera? I bet you'd get more live stream viewers.
He was
and Anna
accused of being a
Kasparian went back,
blackmail.
I bet we'd get 6,000. So they're all fucking pigs. They're all fucking pigs, and they're trying to slime me. And it's
Now, remember, Kyle Kalinske just put together, like, oh gosh, where video go? There we go. Just put together an hour-long video where he's just like, yeah, I don't want to accuse Jimmy of anything. Like, accusing Jimmy of something, that'd be terrible. I think he's a perfectly good faith actor, and like. And Jimmy Dore's response is, like, calling him a fucking pig. Like, I'm sorry, Kyle. You're getting cocked so hard right now.
People on the left who are going to go nuclear because they won't even go conventional. They won't even do anything. So they're doing nothing. So people want someone to go nuclear. But I always thought that was a good thing. I thought Kyle agreed with that because when he was on Joe Rogan, this is what they said.
Shit. You know what's been amazing? Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore's fucking podcaster. He's
a good friend of mine. I
love Jimmy Dore. He's calling everybody out. Everybody on the left,
that
everybody
dude
on the right.
Breathes fire.
He really does.
He breathes fire.
He doesn't give a fuck. He goes hard. He was doing this.
Okay, so again, this is probably the first example of him misinterpreting intent on my part. When I said Jimmy Dore has one gear and it's nuclear, I'm not saying that in that instance with a negative or a positive connotation. I'm saying it just as an objective descriptor. Now, ultimately, in my opinion, he's right. When it comes to politics, nuclear. Go nuclear all day long. We need politicians and we need media figures who are willing to go nuclear because, like he says, nobody's willing to go nuclear, and he's right about that. So when it comes to politics and the national debate, nuclear all day long, I love it, and that's what Jimmy does. However, when it comes to private matters, personal matters, dealing with friends and family, nuclear is not as preferable and you shouldn't go to it nearly as much. It's not true, to be fair and to be clear. He has shown restraint at various times, but yes, one of the criticisms is, and I think you'll see this throughout the course of the video here, he misinterprets a number of things and then he does end up going nuclear, perhaps inadvertently, but he ends up going nuclear on me when we've already established that, hold on, I'm a good faith actor and I mean well and my criticisms are coming from a place of good faith.
Yeah, Kyle, he doesn't give a shit about any of those things. Yeah, Kyle's being used to grease the wheels of the Jimmy Dore machine. Like, you guys just saw it. You guys just saw Jimmy Dore going on a rant about how Kyle Kulinski is attempting to slime him, attempting to, bring him down, and he called him a fucking pig.
It's not working.
Yeah, as you mentioned,
I didn't fucking talk about it the right way. I'm getting fucking smeared and in the sleaziest way possible, and I said inappropriate. Oh my God, Jimmy Dore said inappropriate. Did he say inappropriate? You don't want to punch Cenk Uygur in the face for smearing Julian Assange while he's being tortured. You don't want to punch Annika Sprayton in the face for tweeting out a fucking doctored video to smear an award-winning anti-war journalist. You don't want to fucking punch Cenk Uygur in the face for calling Jimmy Dore a neo-Nazi. You don't want to punch Annika Sprayton in the face for doing an obvious, blatant misuse of the hashtag MeToo. You don't want to no, but Jimmy Dore said inappropriate when he had to defend himself against a fucking sleazy smear.
Dude's response at being called out for blatant sexual harassment in the workplace is to ask his audience why they don't want to punch the people who accused him in the face. Yeah, really helps his case when he's talking specifically about punching the person he sexually harassed and admitted to sexually harassing in the face. It's not a good look on Jimmy because Jimmy Dore is not a good faith actor, is not someone who is beneficial for the left, and frankly, if you watch Jimmy Dore's content and are like, this is a good dude, I don't think I want you in my community. Like, he's a lunatic. Yeah, look, guys, if your response to being called out for sexual harassment is like, I want to punch my accuser in the face. You need to like rethink your priorities and like go get therapy. And, like, the worst part is Jimmy Dore isn't, like, suffering at all. Like, his channel is doing very well. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, Jimmy Dore has almost 1 million subscribers. He has 870,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I just want to say, if you're an ally of Jimmy Dore, you're not an ally of mine. Going around, like, accusing people of, like, sexually assaulting, of, like, people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about that time you sexually harassed me, and your response is like, yeah, I'm gonna punch you in the face, bitch. Like, come on now. Yeah, stop Zeke. Yeah, he did go on Tucker Carlson and basically agreed with Tucker Carlson's white supremacist talking points. And guess what? Yeah, he also watched a video of a Proud Boy and was like, damn, these Proud Boys are pretty based. We, the left, needs to ally with the Proud Boys. You know, that group of fascists who attacked the White House. on January 6th and are labeled a terrorist organization in Canada.
But then you end up going nuclear on me, so yes, the nuclear nature that's good at the political level might not be as beneficial at the friendship level or at the personal level. Continue. Crystal and I were planning to have Jimmy on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends one day. We were planning to have Cenk on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends one day. And then as we watched this, we decided, you know what? We don't want to have either one of them on right now. Because then we would be responsible for getting in the middle of this absolute mess. And we would have...
Look, I'm sorry. If you watch Jimmy Dore and you're like, yeah, he got accused of sexual harassment and then admitted to it, and then just called everyone who disagreed with him and thought that sexual harassment was bad, like a fucking pig and disgusting and out to get him, and like just attacked everyone who didn't remotely like have their tongue a mile up his ass. Look, I'm sorry. You need to get out now if you have any amount of like critical thinking left in your skull.
Have to ask really uncomfortable questions that are really personal in nature, and I don't want to have anything to do with some personal shit.
That's not true.
Nothing at all. I care about policy. I don't care about personal shit. When I said there, listen, if he comes on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends, I'm obligated. I have a responsibility to ask questions about this. Now, I'm going to ask questions not that I think are unfair, not that I think feed into the smear or validate the smear. I would ask a question like, hey, when they threatened you, when Anna threatened you, when she effectively blackmailed you, and you were swatting aside the allegations.
Again, Kyle, someone saying you did awful shit and I'm going to start talking about it is not blackmail.
It was an unfair situation. But in retrospect, do you feel like you worded everything right? Or would you sort of change the way you did it because you did go a little too far, talk about she's dressing inappropriately and effectively slut-shamed her? In retrospect, how do you feel about how you handled that? Now listen, this is an example of, I think that's a perfectly valid and substantive question. I don't think that's a question that validates a smear. I think that's a question a lot of people want to know the answer to. A lot of fair-minded people want to know the answer to. Here's the problem. We're at an impasse. I think that's a perfectly fair question, and I would feel obligated. I would feel a responsibility to ask that question if he came on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. And I know Jimmy does not agree. Jimmy thinks that's an unfair question. He thinks it's unfair, and he definitely thinks it validates the smear. And so now, what are we supposed to do? We're at an impasse. I feel an obligation. I feel a responsibility to ask a tough but I think fair question. He thinks that's an unfair question. In my opinion, the best solution, and since Jimmy's my friend, this is what I fell back on, is let's just not have him on. Let's just not have him on. I don't even have to ask the question. That's what I was thinking. Now, people could actually come after me from the opposite perspective on this and say, if anything, that's not fair, and that's weak of Kyle because he's basically covering for his friend Jimmy. He was going to ask him a tough but fair question, but he'd rather dodge and punt and not have him on the show at all, so he doesn't have to ask him that tough question. And to that I say, I'm kind of guilty of that criticism. Yes, I mean, that was one of the reasons.
Look, one of the big things about this Aaron Mate person is that Aaron Mate and Jimmy Dore both got money from Assad-affiliated organizations, okay? From organizations within Syria that are affiliated with the Assad regime. And we looked into this on stream. It's pretty sketchy stuff. And frankly, I'm not an expert on chemical weapons, but when you actually look at the report, the reason the stuff Aaron Mate covered got omitted from the report was because there was not sufficient evidence to back up their inclusion in the report. And frankly, that's all a matter of record. You can look that up. I don't think that means that, like, Aaron Mate is inherently an enemy of, like, the people or anything like that. But the fact that Aaron Mate has aligned himself with Jimmy Dore, the fact that Jimmy Dore is just certifiably crazy when it comes to this stuff, I think that's pretty good. It's a pretty good reason to doubt their reporting on the entire affair. But that's just me. Because guess what? You can acknowledge chemical attacks in Syria while also still saying that the U.S. shouldn't bomb Syria.
I didn't want to jeopardize my friendship with him by asking him what I thought was a tough but fair question and he thought was an unfair question. I didn't want to jeopardize my friendship with him. I also didn't want to have to...
This is also... Sorry, I keep interrupting myself. This is also one of the things that bothers me about people on the left, and it is this infuriating tendency to make a lot of issues politically black and white when political issues are really, really complicated. Like when we're talking about issues of imperialism, and people are like, yes, it is very good, and only good things will happen if we pull out of Iraq and Afghanistan. That's not true. Bad things are gonna happen as a result of de-escalating imperialism. That's a fact, and that's something that we on the left tend to not understand very well. So that by that same logic, does TYT say what the Clinton Foundation tells them to say? I don't have very good information that TYT is repeating Clinton Foundation talking points, so no. As opposed, to my knowledge, TYT has never whitewashed any international gassing crimes. To my knowledge, TYT has never denied war crimes happened because it fits a political agenda that they happen to agree with. Neither did Aaron Mate. Well, it seems pretty strange that Aaron Mate's reporting was essentially that the reporting on the gas attack was faked and a false flag information. A false flag by the U.S. State Department to justify bombing Syria. That's a pretty... it seems like a pretty big difference between these two positions. All I'm saying, Aaron Mate's up to some sketchy shit, alright?
Argue about the legitimacy of a question that I think is very legitimate. You know what I mean? I didn't want to get into the personal argument and have personal strife.
Now here's the thing. Here's the thing, Master Duck Slimes Normies. This is part of the complicated relationship that international geopolitics has, okay? You can be in favor of withdrawing from Afghanistan and de-escalating imperialism in that case, even if it's going to have negative consequences. Because there might not be a possibility of us getting into a situation where there are less negative consequences or more positive consequences. We live in a world that is very difficult to maneuver in, and I think in Afghanistan we've kind of screwed the pooch so hard that no matter what we do, there are going to be bad consequences, so we might as well get out of there. Well, Master Duck Slimes Normies, there are going to be bad consequences if we stay. There are going to be bad consequences if we leave. Either way, going to be bad consequences. And the reason I side with withdrawing from Afghanistan is because I don't think there are chances for improving the situation if we stay. And I also don't think that there are benefits for the United States. I don't think that there are benefits for a lot of people in Afghanistan. But here's the thing. It's not the United States' position to enforce women's rights in other countries. If that were the case, then we should invade Saudi Arabia. Like if we start going on this track, it gets us into really weird and nonsensical talking points. And I think if like our position is, well, we should have troops in Afghanistan to prop up a government that can't sustain itself, and there are worse consequences and other abuses happening because of that, I think that gets us into a position where we're like, well, why shouldn't the U.S. just invade every country on Earth and uphold women's rights in those countries? Like, yeah, exactly. We are specifically talking about Afghanistan. Exactly. We're specifically talking about Afghanistan. And that's why I think, specifically with Afghanistan, we need to be able to reckon with the fact that there are bad consequences if we stay, there are bad consequences if we leave, and frankly, we haven't done that great of a job of, holding up Afghanistan while we're there, and have had largely negative effects while we've been there. So, it's not our job to protect the rights in another country. I'm sorry. If your position is we have the right to, like, politically defend or violently defend civil rights in countries where we have military bases, like, I don't agree with you. Like, it's not our place in Germany to be like, you don't have the same civil rights laws as us, Germany. We have military bases here, so we're going to intervene in your politics. And the people of Afghanistan don't want us there. Now, granted, if we leave, it is going to have negative consequences. But that's the thing. In geopolitics, there's always negative consequences, and we need to weigh the benefits of staying versus the benefits of leaving. And frankly, I think the benefits of leaving are far more ethical than us staying. Master Duck Slimes Normies, it's not our job to make Afghanistan better. That's the job of Afghanis. Like, again, we're talking about political power and military power, and I do not think that it is the United States' place to project military power into Afghanistan to secure civil rights for people. The same way it wasn't, like, Russia's duty to, like, invade the United States to get, like, black people the right to vote. Yeah, exactly. And the Taliban ruled Afghanistan because of U.S. intervention. Ongoing U.S. intervention. Like, we created the problem, and by staying, we're going to continue to make it and perpetuate the problem and make it worse. And so, like, that's what I'm getting at, though. Like, geopolitics is complicated. There are positives and there are negatives. And frankly, I think that the negatives in the case of maintaining an occupation in Afghanistan vastly outweigh the positives. And I think that by assuming that people who are saying we shouldn't use military might to enforce civil rights on other countries, I don't think that that's a good argument. I'm sorry. Like, should we have our military in Japan attack the Japanese government, like, with bombs and guns because they require trans people to be sterilized before they can transition? That's pretty fucked up. And that's in Japan. We have military in Japan. Why aren't we using, like, again, your arguments are really weird and I think do not apply very well to, like, in other situations where a lot of the factors are the same. Like, when people man. Well, Master Duck Slimes Normies, then the United States should just take over the entire world and manage the civil rights of every nation on Earth, right? Are you pro-imperialism? Like, what? Oh, okay. So you're in favor of the United States invading literally every nation on Earth. Cool. Okay, so you're just a crazy person. Great. I'm glad that we've come to the impasse of I think that the United States should wage a world war on every other nation on Earth. When it's when it's politically viable, we should totally invade every nation on Earth to enforce civil rights. Gotcha. We're already in most countries on Earth, Master Duck Slime's normies. No, it's not a straw man when you agreed when I asked you to what I asked you. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You were memeing? Oh, I'm sorry. My ability to discern actual positions from memes has been destroyed by being on the internet, where people unironically have defended slave labor to me. We're in a lot of countries that don't have the same civil rights standards as us. And I'm sorry, I don't think we should be waging wars to bring other nations up to our standards. That's the job of the people living in those nations. Yeah, there are a lot of nations that have higher civil rights standards than us, too. True, Lily loves stuff. We should we should use our military bases in those countries to bring their civil rights standards down to the level of the United States. You know? We need to bring those civil rights standards down. They're too high. They're infringing on God-given right of free speech. It genuinely bums me out trying to talk about geopolitics on the left, because, like, I say, hey, we need to minimize and reduce our imperialism, and do it in ways that don't that minimize the negative effects of pulling out of other countries and allowing them to, you know, independently settle their own affairs. And people hear me say that and they're like, oh, you're pro-imperialism then because you don't want to unilaterally pull out of every single nation on Earth at the same time. But then you have, on the flip side, you have people who are like, we need to stay in these countries forever to prop up their governments. And it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but no, we should not be staying in countries forever to prop up governments that are not democratic. Much like in life, Lily loves stuff. You have to strategically pull out of places. This is true. All right, let's continue with this drama segment, because I'm done getting I'm done mauling about people in chat. But yes, the Assad regime is awful and terrible. But also, you can be anti-Assad and also anti-bombing Syria. You can do both. Who said suck a dick? Oh, never mind. Wait, so you're anti-bombing ISIS? To be honest, ISIS never did anything to me. I don't really care if ISIS exists or not. I don't think they're good, but also, hey, not my problem to deal with. The same way, North Korea, not very good, not my problem to deal with. Same way, having Ayatollahs in Iran, not very good, also not my problem to deal with. North Korea has nukes, so it's different. Yeah, okay, sure. I thought everything that was bad we needed to invade, but I guess there's a line. Also, I'm just throwing this out there. When we were bombing ISIS, it was usually at the request of the nations in which ISIS was operating. So, just throwing that out there. Oh, so political viability is what you... Okay, well, it's politically viable for us to pull out of Afghanistan. So I think we should do that. Hey, Archangel. So that's good we aided Saudi in bombing Yemen because they asked the US to. Well, as far as I'm aware, Yemen is its own country, so we probably shouldn't be bombing Yemen. You realize there's a difference between bombing an insurgent terrorist force and, like, bombing a sovereign nation like Yemen, right? Smite Knight, hello! Thank you for the raid. But the Houthis are insurgents? Pretty sure Yemen didn't want us to be bombing Yemen. Hey, Smite Knight! Thank you for wandering into a conversation about the trials and travails of geopolitics, where people don't understand that bad things happen on global political scales when anyone does anything, and that, hey, arguing for a, for a decline in colonial rule is apparently insane. Without US military, ISIS wouldn't have been defeated. I don't believe that for a second. You guys, you realize, like, other countries have militaries, right? Breathe, I know. I just get frustrated. I get frustrated by people being dumb in chat. Purpura J, thank you very much for the follow. I would just like to be able to talk about these things with, like, a grain of a nuance without people being like, you need to occupy all nations forever and make all nations colonies of the United States when politically viable, versus take all troops out of all nations tomorrow. Like, I wish we could have a little bit more nuance than those two positions, you know? It's a straw man? It's really not. I got into a big argument with other leftists, with other leftist creators on Twitch, because I said that, like, if we took all troops out of all nations tomorrow, there would be horrific consequences and power vacuums. And that's totally true. That's why you need to have coherent strategic plans to de-escalate colonialism. Now, on the flip side, that also means that you have to be willing to live with the negative consequences that happen when you do pull out, because you're never going to be able to get rid of all of those negative consequences. And we need to recognize the fact that pulling out of places that the United States has interfered in and the consequences that happen there when we pull out are not are not something that we can prevent from happening all the time. That's my secret, I never pull out. Yeah, you're not gonna get banned, you're just being dumb. Saying America should stay where they're already to protect women's rights is dumb. Again, America doesn't protect women's rights. I don't have women's rights in America, and I live in America. Like, I like to imagine the United States is in a position to equitably defend civil rights in its own borders, let alone in other nations' borders, is ridiculous. But, like, yeah, if we pull out of Afghanistan, there's going to be, like, a conservative backlash. And that's gonna happen. But there being a conservative backlash to civil rights in Afghanistan is not the United States' problem. That's something for the Afghanis to figure out. Taliban's already taking districts swiftly, and we haven't even fully left. Well, yeah, but also the Taliban having any amount of power at all is the United States' fault in the first place. By staying, we just continue to stack the deck for when we leave, and also continue interfering, and there are possibly going to be worse consequences down the line from that. We literally armed and created the Taliban. The United States literally armed and, aided the Taliban. Like, if you remember the end of Rocky IV, there's a scene where Sylvester Stallone, praises the Taliban. Because at the time, we were arming the Taliban. So, bold to assume we've seen Rocky IV. Well, people should have at least seen the first Rocky movie. That movie is great. Oh, Spooky, you silly goose. There aren't 4 Rocky movies. There are 6 plus 2 Creed movies. Yeah, well, okay. I'm sorry. Where do you think the Taliban got all their weapons from when they spiraled off from the Mujahideen? Where do you think they got all of their political power from? It was the power structure of the Mujahideen. So, anyway. We were right to fund the Mujahideen to kill the USSR invasion. I don't know about that one. All I'm saying is, when we intervene in other countries, there are going to be consequences to those interventions, and those consequences might spiral very, very far out of our control. Like, for example, the Taliban being a far-right organization that are going to squash women's rights if we leave, if we end our occupation of Afghanistan. I mean, it was... I will give you this, Master Duck Slimes normies. Funding the Mujahideen was a good step to ending the Soviet Union. This is true. It was extremely cost effective. But I think now saying, well, we couldn't possibly leave Afghanistan because what if the monster we created, the Taliban, takes over? Then we just have two different versions of how imperialism is terrible competing against each other. And frankly, one of those things isn't our problem anymore. Hey, Progressive Squirrel. Yes, it's true. It's true. This is basically a long conversation to say that actions have consequences, and that we shouldn't we shouldn't be invading other nations. We shouldn't be engaging in colonialism. It's almost like we should de-escalate our colonial tendencies and pull out where we can. Which is all I've been advocating for the entire time. Yeah, Master Duck Slimes normies. Absolutely. That's because I talk honestly. And when I talk about imperialism, and I talk about colonialism, and I talk about the consequences of de-escalating our military intervention in other countries, I talk about the consequences, and I don't paint it as all sunshine and rainbows. But at the end of the day, it isn't Afghanistan's responsibility to, like, bring civil rights in the United States down to their standards, and it's not the United States' responsibility to bring civil rights standards in Afghanistan up to our standards. As far as I'm aware, the Constitution of the United States is about the right of the people to self-govern, and frankly, I think that should be something that every nation has a right to. Who is arguing with you about immediate withdrawal from everywhere was a wholly good thing? Dirtbag. But, yeah, it was a while ago. And I don't want to start drama or beef. Aisha LaCroix, thank you very much for the follow. This is true. This is a very long stun lock. It's been extremely effective at stun locking me from talking about this drama that I didn't want to talk about. What about a nation's right to self-determination means they vote to commit genocide? Earnest question. Well, the genocide's still wrong. But I don't see anybody invading the United States for its ongoing genocide of the Native American people. So, I don't know. I guess maybe if you're extremely anti-genocide, you should be like, well, the 9/11 hijackers did nothing wrong. You know, if that's your position, you know, they're bringing down the American fascist regime that's genociding the Native Americans. Like, I don't agree with that argument, but I mean, I guess that's one you could go with. I'm sorry, what part of forcing Native Americans to be on reservations and denying them civil rights within said reservations is not part of genocide? Right. Yeah, we definitely never forced Native Americans to live on reservations. That's definitely not something we ever did. We definitely don't allow them to have their own jurisdiction on reservations. We definitely acknowledge and enforce all of our treaties with Native Americans. It's a super non-genocidal relationship. You're right. I was very wrong. Yep, I'm going to stand by the fact that you can consider what is still happening to the Native Americans in the United States as a genocide. You could still consider that a genocide. That's just diluting the meaning of genocide? Nah. The original definition of genocide included cultural genocide. And I believe that, yeah, you could consider that Native Americans are still undergoing a cultural genocide, a genocide of their culture, and a genocide of their people as well. I think it fits both definitions. When you look at the land, for example, that predominantly Native Americans were forced onto, and you look at how those land rights were treated after they were moved onto them, you'll find stories of like, oh, guess what? Private companies were allowed to mine on native lands, and they were mining plutonium, and then they didn't properly close up their mines, and so a bunch of Native Americans on their own ancestral lands got cancer from the plutonium that was allowed to just sit on the surface and kill them. Like, yeah, no. I'm pretty sure you can make decent arguments for ongoing genocide as well. The fact that there aren't like specific special camps to like gas them to death, I think is just a formality that isn't in place. Also, yeah, you know what? Master Duck Slime's normies, I'll agree. It does feel bad that withdrawal from Afghanistan means that some people are going to be treated significantly worse. I agree. It does feel bad, and it is bad. Is it as bad as ongoing colonialism? I don't think so. I think this is a case where if you weigh the pros and cons, there are a lot more pros to pulling out of Afghanistan, but we have to acknowledge that the cons exist too. Anyway, now that we've reached a somewhat amicable conclusion, let's go back to Kyle Kalinske being a cuck.
Life over that. So, and understand something, guys. We had Vosh on the podcast, and he'd previously accused me and Crystal being grifters and every negative thing under the sun, and so we had to talk about that. Was it a little awkward? Absolutely. No, I don't even know Vosh that well. We had Andrew Yang on the podcast. I don't know Andrew Yang at all. We had to press him on BDS, and when he basically was like, Israel killing civilians is totally fine, and killing children is fine. We had to push him on all these things. It was awkward, and I don't even know them that well. Jimmy, I know pretty well, and my question for him would be even more awkward and more personal, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to ask him about it. But I would have felt like a fraud if I didn't ask him a tough but fair question like that. So what did I do? I did what I thought was the better thing for me, because I don't want to deal with the personal strife, but also for him, because he would think it's an unfair question, and so I punted. I didn't want him on. So when he's talking there, shaking his head saying that's not true, when what I'm saying is definitely true. My point is, if I have you on, I have to ask about this. I don't have a choice. I view it as my responsibility, my obligation. That's the problem. We're now at an impasse, and we're never going to see eye to eye on that. And so, even though I agree with Jimmy completely that effectively he was blackmailed, he was threatened, and it's
Hey, guess what? I keep needing to reiterate this because a lot of you people out there who are watching right now don't know what blackmail is. Blackmail is not telling somebody that, hey, you did these bad things to me and I'm going to talk about it now. That's not blackmail. Blackmailing is, hey, you did these things to me. Wouldn't it be unfortunate if that got out to the public? By the way, buy me some new Prada shoes or something like that. You know, that would be blackmail. That's not what Anna Kasparian did. Anna Kasparian was just like, hey, you sexually harassed me. I'm going to tell people about it. I'm sick of putting up with your shit.
Unfair. And he has every right to swat aside those allegations, and I'm happy he did, and he should do that. But the way he did it went a little overboard, and he was slut-shaming Anna. I'm sorry, I think that's a fact, even though Jimmy's my friend. And so I would have had to ask him a question on that. He's shaking his head like, no. In other words, Jimmy wanted to come on the podcast and also just not have me ask anything about that. Or if I did ask anything about that, frame it 100% from his perspective. Well, you know, Jimmy, I got bad news for you, man. In this whole debate and argument, I'm probably 85 or 90% with you, and I'm only 10% or 15% with TYT, but I'm going to have to ask the questions for that 10 or 15% because that's me being intellectually honest, and I can't not be intellectually honest. Okay, let's continue.
Well, if you care about policy, then why not, and you recognize that the smear of me was ridiculous, why not just call that out to begin with? Because, look, my problem here is that when people stay silent on something so egregious as slander, you know, then you're giving sort of a tacit endorsement to it, even if you think it's obvious what everyone's going to think your opinion is. If prominent people on the left, say nothing when someone gets accused of...
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hypocritical Luddite. I forgot about the entire backstory where Anna Kasparian cornered Jimmy Dore in an alley and, using her massive strength, clenched her one hand around his throat, held him up against the wall, his feet dangling down, and said, "You better not tell anybody about how I asked you for a new Coach purse. If you don't give me a new Coach purse, I will reveal that you sexually harassed me, Jimmy Dore." And then she dropped him down to the ground, and as he was gasping his breath, he looked up and she was no longer there. I forgot about that part of the story. Yeah, that part would have been blackmail if it was real and not like an Alan Moore fantasy.
Working for Russia or for dictators. I see that as a tacit green light.
Here's why I totally disagree with that. He says, if I don't speak up on it, it's
all of this because they smeared and continue to smear Aaron Mate. Well, it would help if Aaron Mate wasn't being a little bitch and wasn't constantly calling his own reporting into questioning. That would definitely help. Is Anna a Saiyan? No. Aaron Mate, as far as I'm concerned, equally culpable with all of this. If your co-host on a show goes, "Hey, wasn't it funny that one time when I sexually harassed a woman in front of all of like her students and her coworkers and everyone laughed and I was right to do it, and that's just one incident of many," and your response is, "Yes, I'm going to continue to defend my coworker who admitted to doing this," I'm sorry, you're a piece of garbage, and pretty much all of your work should be called into question, because we know now what you think is okay to do.
Of political incorrectness, and I do see this hypocrisy of like people want to give themselves a pass for the political incorrectness, but then like label their opponents terrible things when they do the political incorrectness. And I don't like that game. That's a gutter game, and that's another reason why I didn't want to get involved, because I didn't want to have to break all this down and give all of my more nuanced opinions on it. Let's continue.
Master Duck Slime's normies. Frankly, I think imperialism and colonialism have far-reaching ramifications that are often far worse than whatever was initially happening in the original country. For example, you can be like, "Man, monarchy sure was bad, wasn't it? That's why it was so good when Britain invaded India and just took it over and turned it into a colony. Colonial India was so based, they got free education and free infrastructure, and wowee, it was so good. I mean, look at before they were just like a bunch of savages on their own lands doing just like basically just walking around eating shit. Like, man, they were basically a bunch of primitive savages who were killing each other with no rhyme or reason. And we came along and we civilized them, and that made colonialism good. Which, by the way, was the justification for colonialism. When you actually look at it today, the costs of colonial occupation and the cost of colonial policies cost literally like trillions of dollars. Like the estimated cost of like just the economic cost to India itself was a siphoning off of like $25 trillion over the course of 200 years. When we're talking about the wealth of a country, yeah, colonialism siphons off the vast majority of the wealth of a nation. That's what it's supposed to do. That's the system of colonialism. When we're talking about lives, yeah, colonial impositions on human rights, on who is given privileges, on who is allowed to live where and to what standards, this causes literally millions of deaths, tens of millions of deaths, hundreds of millions of deaths. Like, for example, here's a big example for you. In pre-colonial India, first off, pre-colonial India was one of the wealthiest nations on earth. Pre-colonial India, even though it was a feudalistic society, had a system in place whereby if famines occurred, the leaders of the different kingdoms would come together and provide for the people to make sure that people didn't die of mass starvation. Under the colonial administration of India by the British, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people died due to starvation under famines because they didn't have the money to pay for the food that they needed to eat. In fact, within living memory, so during World War II, Churchill himself, this might have actually even been after World War II, Churchill himself was like, yo, we actually need all of our wheat. So we're not going to give any wheat to India because they're basically all dirty people and they breed like rabbits anyway. It's their own fault for not having enough food. And as a result, 14 million people died. So when you're talking about colonialism, trying to downplay it, the native people were already just killing each other. That's a common tactic that is used to whitewash the ongoing and long-term effects of colonialism that kills far more people. Also, for the record, Master Duck Slimes Normies, the Romans were not responsible for the West being shit civilizations. In fact, the West was a collection of shithole civilizations for 1,000 years. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the really great civilizations during that time were the Middle East and North Africa. Also, Roman colonization was not the same as colonialism. These are two distinctly different ideas, and conflating them is extremely intellectually disingenuous.
So now Kyle went on to do a segment with Cenk Uygur's nephew instead of me. That is hardly staying out of it. And he and the subject, of course, came up. And here's how they covered it.
They just stay out of all the fucking Jimmy Dore drama or whatever the fuck's going on at any given moment. People will always come in and they're like, dude, what do you think about this? I'm like, no.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. I look,
we're
I
all
would much
simpatico
rather,
there.
Yeah, I would much rather talk about, literally using a pocket pussy than that. which I do. I talk about a variety of different things. I just don't think.
Man, I do not like Hassan very much. He does not vibe with me.
Like, hey, Kyle's right on force the vote. He helped us a lot. He was eloquent. I think basically they argue, yeah, he's a good faith
he's too much of a dude bro for me.
Actor. And then now here, they're really reading into this clip a lot of stuff that's just not there. So he seems to believe that it's like a slight or a pot shot at him that we spoke to Cenk's nephew. But if you follow anything about
Look. My hot take, Hassan was good before the middle part. There, I said it. Fight me.
Hassan Piker, he's no longer just Cenk's nephew. In fact, he very openly...
Wait, I defend colonialism with the gang? No. What? Colonial India was so based, they got free education and free infrastructure, and wowee, it was so good. I mean, look at before. Before they were just like a bunch of savages on their own lands doing just like, basically just walking around eating shit. Like, man, they were basically a bunch of primitive savages who were killing each other with no rhyme or reason. And we came along and we civilized them, and that made colonialism. Colonial India was so... Chat, why do you want to hurt me like that? Why do you want to hurt me like that? Oh goodness. Yeah, Master Duck Slimes normies, I'm not on your side with that. I'm not on your side with being pro whitewashed genocide. Sorry. Read King Leopold's Ghost sometime.
He disagrees with Cenk on a zillion things. Hassan Piker literally dunked on Cenk for the same dumb tweet about sky gods with Israel-Palestine as Aaron Mate did. He's his own man, and he's one of the top Twitch streamers in the world. To have on Cenk's nephew, Hassan Piker, is to have on Hassan Piker. It's got nothing to do with Cenk, which gets to the point of what was said in that clip. Hassan says, when people ask me about the Jimmy Dore drama, I say, no, not even going to comment on it. Hold on. He said he's not even going to comment on it, and then I respond, quote, I feel the same way. That's all I say in the clip. And Crystal says, we're all simpatico there. We make the point, we don't want to get involved in it, and you interpret that as tacit endorsement of the Young Turks and the smears against Aaron and you, and the threat that was made against you? No. Let me be clear. Let me be on the record as much as anybody could be on the record. I think you and Aaron were smeared. I think they threatened you. You had every right to defend yourself. I do think you went a little too far in your defense by effectively slut-shaming Anna. But you guys are right on the policies. You have every reason to be upset.
Wait, that's not the timeline, though. The timeline is that Jimmy Dore sexually harassed Anna, and Anna didn't say anything about it until recently. And then Jimmy Dore confirmed that it was real. Like,
all that stuff is true, and it's also true that everything we said in this clip stands on its own two legs. Namely, the point I was making was, I don't want to get in the middle of this because I don't want to get in the middle of it. In other words, I wanted to avoid the exact same fucking thing I'm doing right now. I don't want to have to do this segment. I don't want to have to talk about this. I don't want to have to dissect this 1,000 different ways to Sunday. All I wanted to do, Aaron and Jimmy, was to be out of this. That's it. All I wanted to do was to not interject myself.
Yeah, and that's not good enough for Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore needs your tongue a mile up his ass. And you're not putting it there, and he's upset, okay? He's not able to get his rocks off.
But now I feel like, my hand was forced, and so I have to comment on it, and I'm losing a lot of friends over this. I know it's not just Jimmy and Aaron that hate me now. Also, of course, the people at the Young Turks would hate me now, because why wouldn't they? I'm saying I 90% disagree with them on the shit that's going on. So
yeah.
What do you expect is going to happen? So he's reading so much into this clip, and this is the nuclear thing I was talking about earlier. That at times, whenever I say stuff they agree with, there's an underlying charitability that they have for me. But then when I say stuff like this, which is actually relatively benign, they read malintent into it. As if it
Also, I'm sorry, nice news skirt is like You're supposed to be a professional comedian. That's like one of the least funny, like, jokes I've ever heard in my life.
It was a shot at Jimmy when it wasn't a shot at Jimmy. And it wasn't some sort of tacit endorsement of the shit that TYT was doing. It was literally exactly what it says at face value there. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Sometimes, hey, I want to stay out means I just want to stay out. All right, let's continue.
That clip right there, when I saw that to me opens up.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore's a comedian.
With that clip, I think that they invited themselves up to criticism. People are wondering why we're talking about this now.
That's right.
That clip right there was basically belittling, I think. That's why I took it. The concerns that we have. Because it's one thing if you want to decide, look, I don't want to comment on an issue. You don't have to comment on an issue. No one's going to force you. I personally was disappointed that people like them stayed silent. If they had been smeared like that, I think I can confidently say that I would have spoken up, because I don't think that kind of smearing should be tolerated. But whatever, you can't demand that someone speak up for you, okay? But to say, if they just said, you know what, we don't want to talk about this, period. But then they don't just say that. Then they try to justify it by doing two things. One is they draw, as you told them, this false equivalency between a joke you made 7 years ago and you apologized for, and what they did, which is smearing.
And you apologized for, because you would have been fired otherwise. And also, because it really indicates that how sorry you are when 7 years later you talk about how everyone laughed at your joke and how it was so good, and just like so justified. Obviously 7 years later you had to go on a 5-minute rant about how Anna's ass looked in her skirt and how you were just staring at her thong. It really indicates how sorry you are.
Me and then trying to blackmail you with this ridiculous sexual harassment claim, okay? There's no equivalency between that. And that's why, as you said, it's not a war, it's a smear campaign. And then going publicly and actually commenting on it by basically belittling the whole thing and dismissing it as Jimmy Dore drama. It's not Jimmy Dore drama. It's us pushing back against the smear campaign, which we have the right to do. And if you're going to belittle us for doing that, you're basically taking the side of the smear campaign.
What? It baffles me that they could...
Jimmy, again, Kyle has been doing a segment half an hour now, and he spent 30 minutes equivocating about how he's mostly on Jimmy Dore's side, and Jimmy Dore's just the best, and, he's still playing defense for them. And then they'll go on to have, another clip here.
And you shouldn't do that either, because how many times do I have to go through it? I agree with you guys on almost all the policies. Anyway, continue.
Also, to go ahead and talk about it and misframe it.
Yeah, we'll speed this up because this is actually taking a long time.
That and to do it with Jenk's nephew is you're not pressing pause. You're not staying out of it. It's almost the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So you didn't get dragged into this. Kyle Kalinske inserted himself into this. Kyle did that on purpose and didn't have to, but he did. And that's obvious. So that's why the next day on Twitter, people were saying, hey, Kyle, why don't you cover the story and the thing? And I liked a tweet, and that's what set him off to do this video.
He says, that last part is important. He says, oh, the next day on Twitter, somebody said, why don't you cover that and the thing? And I liked it, and that's what set him off.
So that's why the next day on Twitter, people were saying, hey, Kyle, why don't you cover the story and the thing? And I liked a tweet, and that's what set him off to do this video.
Okay, Jimmy, you know the specifics of that. The specifics of that are, I'll throw it up on the screen now. The tweet he liked said, Crystal and Kyle, seriously though, you're ignoring the Syria story completely to avoid...
Okay, I'm bored of this video. We're gonna move on to the next one!
So, today, we're going to be addressing, of course, and hopefully this will be the last time we have to address statements in this. There's only one person, and that was me.
Thank you for gifting a sub to Hypocritical
7 years ago, I apologized for a joke I made to a friend immediately, without a pressure campaign, without a blackmail threat. I apologized to a friend and a coworker and my boss for a joke. And she accepted, and that's water under the bridge.
Spooky,
and then she weaponized it 7 years later when she's getting criticized for her McCarthyism to just try to distract people.
One more
and then
gift of
Kyle
bits and we'll
let
have a
it
hype train.
So I'm going to show you what happened. He was talking about why he didn't want to have people on the show. We're not going to have anybody on the show. Well, what happened was they booked me like a month earlier, right? So on June 1st, I was texting with Crystal, and I said, she asked me to tweet out their new show. She was like, hey, could you help promote our new show? And I said, done. I did it. I helped promote their new show. And she says, I said, looking forward to Kyle, KKF. Kyle has not floated any dates to me yet. And she said, all right, I'll bug him, and thank you. You've always been so good to us, and I am truly grateful. And so you heard Kyle also refer to me on the Joe Rogan clip as his good friend. So the way they treated me after this was not like you would treat a friend or even an enemy. The way they treated me was unbelievably rude and unprofessional to the extreme. So you see that I have a date booked. So she gives me the date. I picked June 24th.
Yeah. It's so rude and unprofessional that he spends an hour of his time gargling your dick, like, after you are bad-mouthing him. But we have another video here, because this issue has now blown up beyond Jimmy Dore, beyond Kyle Kalinske, and now we have Glenn Greenwald getting into the mix.
We do tons of stories.
We're gonna skip
Telling
ahead.
her these outrageous things that she paid off by NATO and all these other things. And Glenn claims that he's really outraged by anyone saying that somebody is paid by someone without evidence, yet he's never asked for evidence of any of us being paid by NATO. What an insane, absurd charge. But as long as it's his friends and his buddies that he wants to advocate for, there's completely different standards, right? So in the midst of that frustration, Anna sends a DM, and now they've characterized it as blackmail. And I want to actually read the end of that DM for you guys so you know what the reality is, right? And it's in there. They've all put it in their videos. They read it to you guys, and then they tell you something that isn't true. So let's read the end of that DM. She says, I've been holding back, letting you run your mouth nonstop as if you're some sort of warrior for what's good in the world. That is going to change. Now, in blackmail, the way that it works is, hey, I'm going to do something unless you give me something. You give me a duffel bag full of money in a parking lot, or you do this, or you do that, or you don't do something. It's an ultimatum, right? Here, there's no ultimatum. She says, I'm gonna do it, right? There's no like, oh, okay, maybe not, maybe this. If you do this, then I won't do that. No, she says, I'm mad because you are pretending to be a warrior for good.
If you give me money, I won't watch a Steven Crowder segment.
Good, when in reality I know because of my personal experience that you're a dirtbag. So I'm going to let people know you're a dirtbag because that's who you are. Because you're going out there and attacking me personally. This has nothing to do with politics anymore.
Yeah, see that's how blackmail works, chat. Get me a level 5 hype train, or we watch a Steven Crowder segment. That's blackmail.
You're saying I'm paid off by nefarious people, all these different things, and including sexual attacks, etc., as you're about to see, right? So I'm mad, and I'm telling you, okay, if you're going to attack us, then I'm finally, I've been holding, and we did, guys. We held for so long, and we only do these segments after they go for a month straight. Finally, we'll correct the record because we have a news program to do, right? So she says that. So as you can see, already out of the gate, the idea of blackmail is absurd. It's totally absurd. It's not true on the facts as we start. Okay, now let's get to Glenn. So he sees that. Instead, he says this.
You see what she did there? Now, since this DM was sent, Jimmy anticipatorily went and showed his audience this threat, which is what this is, that she sent him. A threat that she's going to accuse him of sexual harassment.
No, that's not what happened at all. And there's no anticipatory anything.
Lily loves stuff. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. I appreciate that so goddamn much. Thank you. And Spooky, thank you for the 69 bits.
He just came out and admitted that he did it, right? And by the way, some of the things he said in that account were not even true. So Anna wasn't going to say that, okay? And so she said, if you're saying personal things, I'm allowed to say personal things.
Gotcha.
And he's like, oh yeah, I'll tell you all the sexual harassment I already did. So instantly, Glenn starts out with a totally wild and incorrect way of phrasing it and characterizing it. So then he goes on and says this.
He gave his own version of events about what happened. She then went on her own program and made good on her threat.
But wait a minute.
I have not.
Jimmy already said he did it. So what do you mean made good on her threat? It's already public for the whole world to see. almost every show's talked about it.
True.
That's in this progressive sphere, unfortunately, right? And I hate that the clip is replayed. Now we're going to have to replay the clip in a little bit to show you what a liar Glenn Greenwald is, right? But she made good on her threat. Okay, but wait, she said that's going to change. So where's the thread? Where's the part where she says, hey, I don't like your political opinions. If you don't stop, then I will do this. No, Jimmy just goes out and goes, oh, you're going to attack me? I caught feelings. Oh, that's it. Everybody, all my cult, go out and tell everybody I caught feelings, right? So I'll tell you already, I'm a sexual harasser, right? And then Glenn takes that and goes, oh, you see how Anna is the one who did the threat and then carried out the threat. But Glenn, you left out the part where Jimmy already admitted it. But wait, it gets way worse. Here's more.
I have no idea what took place back in 2014 when they were working together because I wasn't there. But here's what I can't comment on whether anyone did anything wrong back then.
You have no idea what took place, and you can't tell if anyone did anything wrong.
It's true. Jenko looks like he'd buy me a really expensive pair of shoes like once a week, you know? Yeah. Oh, Ashley, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very, very much. Duchess, thank you for the additional 100 bits. Yeah, thank you for everyone who's making this hype train just sing tonight. You guys got 4 minutes to make it to the end of level 4. Let's do it.
All right, well, this is the clip that everyone has already seen. It's inconceivable that Glenn didn't see it. And if he chose not to look at it, well, that would also be absolute negligence if you're a so-called journalist. So he couldn't tell if anybody did anything wrong. Let's watch.
Anna Kasparian used to dress, when I worked there, unbelievably inappropriately for a newsroom. She looked like she was going to a rave. The skirt, one time she came into the newsroom with a skirt so short. It wasn't a pencil skirt. It was like a fluffy one too, but so short that she bent over in front of me and I literally saw her ass and her thong. She's wearing a thong. I literally saw it. Like, everybody saw it. And I go, hey, Anna, nice news skirt. And everybody laughed. Like, they laughed louder than I thought they would.
Dramatic reenactment of people laughing. Everyone laughing. That was everyone laughing at how funny Jimmy Dore's sexism was.
And so it humiliated her. She got humiliated in the middle of the newsroom, and I did it.
And I did it.
Thank you for the 100 bits.
Now, Glenn, you said, I have no idea what took place. Well, your friend, the one you're defending and hiding the evidence for, told you he did it, and he told you exactly what took place according to his own account. And you just, I don't know. I don't know what happened. What, am I a journalist? I don't know. Oh, everybody's already seen the clip. Oh, I don't know what the clip is. I have no idea what took place.
Yeah, I mean, like, literally, even if we just go off of what Jimmy Dore himself said about the incident, it is still horrible. It is horrible. And it gets worse when you know Anna's side of the story. Hey, Pope Mindless. Yep, we're on this dumbass again.
And by the way, there's two really important things here. One is, why is he calling it a news skirt? Because the humiliation comes in, you're not a real news person. You're just here for all the men to leer at
Snapdragon,
you. That's why I looked up your skirt
biddies.
And had a big laugh about it.
What's a news skirt? The implication is that it's an inappropriate skirt to be wearing in a newsroom. Because Jimmy Dore couldn't stop himself from looking at Anna's ass.
Glenn, you're not sure what happened? You're not sure if, what did he say? Whether anyone did anything wrong back then, you're not sure about it. You're a journalist, and you just saw that. He never put that clip, he never mentioned that clip anywhere in his video.
Guys, you got a minute left to get this hype train up. Just saying.
He never talked about it. My God, Glenn, what else have you hid from your readers all of these years? If you're doing a story as a journalist on this and you hide the most important evidence, what else have you hidden? So the second part that's important about the Jimmy clip is they're still laughing. This isn't something you did wrong and you apologized for 12 years ago, 7 years ago. Oh my God, we shouldn't have said that on air. This is not an on-air thing. This is a workplace thing, okay? You do this at work. That is textbook sexual harassment. Anyone who defends that, I don't know what you are, but you're definitely not a progressive. And then, not only did you do it back then, you're still having a great time about it. He's laughing, Steph is laughing. We humiliated her. But Glenn's not sure what happened. He doesn't know at all. What is he, a journalist? No, of course.
Oh gosh, we're so close. We're not quite there yet. Oh, we're not quite there. You got 10 seconds left. You got 10 seconds left. Holy shit. You didn't, it said 100%, but you didn't quite get it over the edge. Oh dear. Duchess, thank you for the last couple 20 bits. Thank you so much. Eric, thank you for the 100 bits. Spooky, thank you for the 100 unicorn peens. You had 0 bits. Oh, Eric, I'm sorry. Yeah, it said 100%. Yeah. I feel cheated. Nothing I can do about that, chat. You guys got to go above and beyond the counter, you know? Hey, Quincy. Choo choo choo. All right.
Of course not. So there's a lot more where that came from. So now Glenn makes up something, just fabricates a fact. Let's watch.
I'll consider it weird.
If anything, she was his boss at the Young Turks. And yet, according to her own version of events, and according to Jimmy's as well, she never once voiced a complaint about being sexually harassed by Jimmy Dore in the workplace.
Yeah, because he would have been
fired. But wait a minute. Anna wasn't Jimmy's boss at all. So Anna's become executive producer of the show later, but I was Jimmy's boss. So why didn't you check with us? Hey, you're supposed to be a journalist. Hey, was Anna Jimmy's boss at the time? No, you just chose to make up that non-fact. And I found that so curious. Why fabricate something for no reason at all? It's just going to embarrass you, right? But then I saw this old clip of Jimmy basically threatening other people here, right? And when I say old clip, I mean this is after the controversy began, right? And he's trying to make sure now desperately, oh my God, I don't want more things to come out. And he said this.
She never, in the course of this 7 years, uttered a peep about claiming to have been sexually harassed by Jimmy Dore. In fact, in 2016, as I just showed you, they had a very amicable exchange. He was wishing her well on her mother's surgery, and she said, "Thank you so much, and it's so great to see how much you're kicking ass." That's not the exchange that one would expect from someone who actually feels like they were maliciously and systematically sexually harassed by someone else, but maybe it is. Maybe that did happen.
Okay, so we played a clip there of Glenn continuing. I'll get back to the Jimmy clip in a second. But in that Glenn clip right there, he says, maybe it happened, maybe. He doesn't know, he doesn't know. He said, in all these years, she never uttered a peep. Guys, you've seen sexual harassment stories. It's #1 go-to maneuver of people defending sexual harassers. Why didn't she come out before? Why was she a decent person?
But also, all of this is irrelevant because we have Jimmy's own version of the story, which is terrible for Jimmy.
And didn't want that guy fired. She made the mistake of thinking he's a friend. By the way, if you've been sexually harassed, if you're a woman or a man out there, say it right away, okay? Because they're gonna use it against you later. They're gonna send some sick guy like Glenn Greenwald after you later and go, why didn't she say a peep before? Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. Even though he already knows that his friend admitted it on tape. Okay, but I want to go back. Do we have the Jimmy clip? So this is a quick clip about where Jimmy's on another show, and it explains why in the world Glenn would be making up the fact that Anna was his boss when she wasn't. Let's watch.
So now if anybody else at the Young Turks comes out and say that I harassed them, Anna's going to get sued.
Oh, I get it now. Okay. So if anybody else at the Young Turks says I sexually harassed them, they better not, because I won't be in trouble. Anna will be in trouble. You better not say it. That's the Jimmy Dore, like weirdo, like rage, right? He's threatening everybody here, all the women who worked here. And he's saying, remember, I'm going to get Anna in more trouble. Remember how I sexually harassed her? And remember how I humiliated her and laughed about it? Well, I'm going to do it to you guys, and I'm going to do it to Anna, because I'm pretending Anna was my boss. Now, Jimmy knows Anna wasn't his boss. He knows that for a fact. Hey, Glenn, did you ask Jimmy if Anna was the boss? You didn't ask anybody. You just made it up. Oh, but if Anna was the boss, then Jimmy's point might be an interesting one, but Anna wasn't the boss. So I don't know if Glenn lied on purpose so that he could protect Jimmy from further sexual harassment claims. I don't know of any. I hope he didn't do it. I hope to God he didn't do it, but God, I don't know anything about Jimmy. I don't know anything about Glenn. I thought I knew these guys, and apparently none of us ever knew them at all. Monsters. So now, as you saw there in the earlier clip, Glenn said, she didn't speak out. It's basically, he seems like he's blaming her. He does the standard caveats in the video. I'll be way more fair than him. So in the video, he says a couple of times, yeah, it happens with women. Sometimes it happens with women that they don't say anything about sexual harassment. They come out later. But in the case of Anna, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. What do I do? Would I watch it? No, I didn't watch it. So in case you were unaware of it, here's Jimmy again admitting.
She got humiliated in the middle of the newsroom, and I did it.
Glenn, you call yourself a journalist? Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. The hatchet job from a guy who I thought was a journalist in an earlier career, who now has become some weirdo right-winger. And if you say, oh, no, he's actually really left-wing, but he just happens to go on Tucker Carlson and Jimmy Dore's show, and he happens to support all these right-wing talking points. It just all happens to be, and he never happens to criticize right-wing. Hold on. I've got that for you too, because Glenn also admitted what he thinks about certain situations later in this video. But now we're going to go back to his smears against Anna. Let's keep going.
That fact that someone doesn't come forward doesn't mean nothing happened. But what she's doing here is as grotesque as it is transparent.
So it doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but you see that, but she's grotesque. Jimmy is not grotesque for all the things that you saw. Anna's grotesque. This is textbook blaming the victim.
Yeah.
Textbook.
Like, no, like, he's 100% right. Like, Anna didn't do anything wrong except call into question Aaron Mate's journalism for very valid reasons, I believe. And as a result, Jimmy Dore, and as a result of them not supporting the force the vote stuff, Jimmy Dore directed his audience at Anna and Cenk, and Anna eventually had enough with, like, covering up for this slime ball. And just for sending a DM saying, I'm not going to shut up about this stuff anymore, they've now prolonged this campaign against Anna Kasparian, like, indefinitely. Because so many of their brain-dead supporters either don't know or don't care about the fact that Jimmy Dore admitted to doing the thing that Anna accused him of doing, and don't know or don't care about what blackmail is.
He continues.
It's basically blackmailing him, saying if you continue to criticize us,
Glenn Greenwald, you have a fucking Pulitzer Prize. You have a Pulitzer. And you don't know what blackmail is. I know that Cenk is trying to be somewhat good faith here because he's not just outright calling Glenn Greenwald a liar. Glenn Greenwald has the Pulitzer Prize. And he doesn't know what blackmail is. I'm sorry. This is someone with the expertise and knowledge to know that what he is saying is complete bullshit. You should, like, you have a Pulitzer Prize for journalism. You know what blackmail is. You're just calling it something it's not to score political points against people that you feel are ideologically opposed to you.
I'm going to accuse you of sexual harassment.
I already showed you that it was no such thing. But Glenn, you're supposed to be a lawyer, and I get it. You're no longer a journalist. You're an advocate.
Oh, that's right. He's also a lawyer. You double know what blackmail is. You're just lying.
And you've decided that you're going to advocate for this monster, Jimmy Dore. I don't know why you made that decision. I don't care, because I have no respect for you left at all, okay? But you're a lawyer, and you're doing an interesting job of advocating here. You don't know that blackmail is a very serious criminal charge? And you just said that on tape with no evidence at all? In fact, you hid the evidence of the actual sexual harassment from your audience. You see, if you're in his audience and you're a reader, understand, from now on, you have no idea what Glenn didn't tell you. The overwhelming evidence that might be on the other side, but Glenn wasn't advocating for that position.
I will say, I think I think TYT deserves respect. They're one of the largest news shows online. They've been going for like almost 20 years. They've been remarkably consistent in their commitment to like ideological transparency. And like Cenk isn't really like my cup of tea when it comes to like a lefty, but like I know he's got my back on like issues like Medicare for all and like different issues that a lot of lefties can agree on. Just because he doesn't like agree on 100% of all of my ideas doesn't mean he's not an ally. And the fact that he's ideologically consistent means that he's like infinitely better and more valuable as an advocate than someone like Jimmy Dore or Glenn Greenwald.
He wanted to advocate for his own opinions and his perspective. And in this case, he wanted to say, well, sexual harassment, is it really that bad? I mean, but the victim is grotesque. The victim is grotesque.
Exactly.
You just saw it with your own eyes. By the way, there are really grotesque people in the world. There's like literal Nazis in the world. They write at the Daily Stormer. So interestingly enough, they also wrote about this story. Can we put it up on the screen here? I'm sorry that you...
Jesus. What? Okay, granted, I've never looked at the Daily Stormer. I didn't know they had a section called this. I guess trigger warning. I guess they think Anna Kasparian is transgender?
We have to subject you to the headline above that as well. But remember, these are literal Nazis. And they run with the headline, Anna Kasparian blackmailing Jimmy Dore with Me Too hoax. Hoax. You saw it on...
Oh, also, Anna Kasparian never used #MeToo to talk about this experience. As far as I'm aware, the last time Anna Kasparian used #MeToo was like a decade ago.
Tape for exposing the Young Turks pro-war agenda. And also don't have a pro-war agenda. Every part of this story is a lie. Okay.
Yeah. And also, I'm not totally against intervention. There's just a big difference between intervention and colonialism, IMO.
Now, just because the Nazis agree with Glenn and Jimmy, and by the way, other people, it doesn't mean that Glenn and Jimmy are Nazis. We're fair. You look at Hitler was...
But their position and the willingness of white supremacists and Nazis to cater to that position and to jump onto that position and to love that position tells you a lot about the position itself.
A vegetarian, that doesn't mean vegetarians are Nazis, right? But when the...
Oh, trans women are women. That's why they're talking about Anna in the Trans Watch, because Trans Watch is about covering women. Okay, gotcha. Surprisingly progressive justification for using the T-slur.
Nazis agree with you, you should probably quadruple check your position.
Spinach Monster, thank you for the follow.
Did Glenn look like he quadruple checked his position? No. And so now it's interesting. By the way, after Jimmy's side put out all these old tapes of ours, some of the worst alt-right people like Cernovich jumped in and started spreading them around. And get a load of the alt-right and the alt-left meeting, okay? I mean, this thing has come full circle because the original guy who leaked blogs and tapes about me when I formed Justice Democrats was Mike Cernovich.
Yep.
So he's also the Pizzagate guy.
Mike Cernovich is also the Gamergate guy. Weird how all of this stuff kind of like circles around like the Gamergate event.
So Pizzagate, Seth Rich conspiracy theory. So all of this is now beginning to make a lot of sense. So and you just heard me call Jimmy alt-left. And I decided that actually is, a pretty good term for them because they live in an alternate reality. There's the real left with Bernie Sanders and AOC and Nina.
Wait, when I turn, guys, real quick, when I turn on my fan, it's not on right now. If I turn it on, do you hear something? Does that come on over the mic? No? Okay. Good.
Turner and Ryan Grimm and David Sirota and us, where we're trying to do something constructive in the world, where we're actually trying to pass bills. And yes, we even hold those people accountable, as we did in the $15 minimum wage fight. We held Bernie Sanders and the Justice Democrats. We helped get elected accountable because you need to pass the bills. Because guys, if we don't pass bills, all this is academic. It's about everybody's ego. Who cares?
True! That's what I was saying earlier. The force the vote stuff was entirely to stroke the egos of a lot of these people. Especially Jimmy Dore.
Here's about people's ego. Pass the goddamn bills, right? Nope. We got to tear everybody down. And in our alternate reality, the most important thing in the progressive movement is Jimmy Dore's feelings. That is so sad and sick. So they've easily earned that title of the alt-left. And by the way, if you want to be in there and you want to be, no, those things don't matter. The only thing that matters is the cult of Jimmy Dore, which I can't believe Glenn Greenwald has joined. Jesus, Glenn, you have no self-respect at all. A lot of people have lost their self-respect in this fight. It's really sad to see. Okay, and by the way, they say, and this is another thing that I have to confess drives me crazy. Young Turks and Jimmy are in this fight and it's a soap opera. We didn't start this. We don't do this on the regular show. We do this once a month after they've piled up all of these lies, all these falsehoods, etc. They do it every day, all day long. That's all they do. Guys, wake up. If you're not actually part of the alt-left, wakey. When's the last time they actually did anything constructive? All right. So now, this whole blackmail thing, I'm going to come back to that because some people who used to be good, smart people have been duped by that too. So apparently this was a state secret and Anna was going to threaten to reveal it unless Jimmy did the things that she wanted. Now, she didn't write any of that. You saw it with your own eyes. But not only that, apparently Jimmy had already revealed it. So I want to give credit to Matt Dimitri, who's found a lot of these old videos, because Jimmy does live streams, but he's so unhinged, etc. He takes a lot of them down afterwards, realizing, oh my God, I've said terrible things. In fact, I don't know why he takes them down, and I don't care, okay? But they found these, and so this is December of 2020, okay? So this state secret that apparently that was going to get blackmailed, etc. Jimmy had already admitted. Watch.
Are you fucking kidding me?
One time I was in a news studio, and I won't say who did this, but someone wore such a short. No. Anyway.
You gave me a dirty look last week when I mentioned that. I thought it was funny.
I'm just saying. I've seen newscasters' naked asses in newsrooms. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying who's.
I think that was a nice news skirt.
Yes, a nice news skirt.
Yeah, the only thing worse than a nice news skirt is a nice news thong.
A news thong. It's a news bikini.
ha ha ha.
I'm doing the news in my news song.
Ha 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 ha. So funny.
Oh, boy.
Glenn also pretended that Jimmy was a principled person who was only talking about politics. Have you ever seen Jimmy? He's only talking about politics, and he never made it personal until Anna threatened to reveal this thing that Jimmy had revealed months ago. And why did Jimmy start making, and by the way, they were talking about Anna when they went into that spiel, okay? And so it was not unclear who he was referring to. It wasn't any random person at TYT, right? They were talking about Anna, and then they say all that. So if he's only talking about politics, why is he already trying to humiliate her? And as you see here, again, this is not a long time ago, this is now, and they're having the time of their life.
Jimmy Dore.
Like she's doing news. Nah, we're gonna attack her and pretend that she's this and that and that she's here for our sexual amusement. You people sicken me. But now Glenn says, oh, I don't see it, I don't know. Here, watch.
People who have no evidence just throwing around these words trying to attach it to that person. That person is a groomer, that person is an abuser, that person harasses, that person.
Yeah, Glenn. Might be somewhat pertinent when the accusation is someone's engaging in blackmail, and you just mindlessly agree with that, despite the fact that blackmail is a serious crime, and you have no evidence of blackmail in this case at all.
Person is emotionally toxic, and instantly their reputation is destroyed. No evidence is required.
No evidence.
Luckily, we have 2 confessions by the person accused of the sexual harassment.
Said it over and over and over again, full well knowing there was tremendous evidence that the guy he's defending had already said it. Whatever Glenn was, he's certainly not a journalist anymore. So, one more time, the evidence.
So when I did that, so she got really mad. She got humiliated. Her face turned red. She tried to insult me back, and it just fell flat, and she looked, bad.
She looked bad. By the way, that's a different clip. He said it 4 different times. I don't want to show you every time, right? But in the second version of events, he's like, oh, after I humiliated her, she said something back to me because she's a strong woman who didn't tolerate that nonsense. So... But it wasn't as funny as my news skirt line because I'm a comedian. By the way, where's the joke in that? Where's the news skirt joke? No, it's just to degrade someone. There's no joke other than the degradation, right? But haha, she wasn't as funny as I think I am. By the way, let me just note for the record, I feel sick about all of this because I saw Jimmy during the break sometimes, and I thought this is just some rapport they had or something. Not just with the Ron Placones of the world, but with Steph. Yell at her that she didn't yell at that she didn't laugh at his jokes enough. And we've all seen it, the stage crew, so we all saw it, okay? Why didn't you laugh at my joke? People won't think it's funny if you don't laugh at it. Well, maybe it wasn't funny, Jimmy. And by the way, you'll see it going forward. The fake laughs, this is filled with nonstop fake laughs because Jimmy psychologically abuses these people. And that's why
Laugh. You better laugh.
Why I'm mad at myself. You see that? I should have fired him right away. That's not a firing offense, but I should have known. That's a bad guy. That's a bad guy. He's wonderful to us, right? Like, why? Why is he great to me? He would give me gifts and stuff because I'm the boss. But when I'm not in the room, I'm looking up people's skirts, et cetera, et cetera. But I saw the Steph thing, and I should have known what kind of a disgusting character he is. You better laugh at my non-jokes, right? But Glenn can't tell. I don't know. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? And then he says at the end, she looked bad. Yeah, I guess Glenn agrees. The victim looked bad, and my poor beloved friend, who is not emotionally toxic, okay, was the victim here. Jimmy's the victim. Look, you guys are seeing all the videos for yourselves. So if you think Jimmy's the victim, great, have at it, okay? I never want to see you guys. Don't watch the show. You control. I don't care about any of it. Unlike some other people, we don't care about theoretically lost subscribers or any of that. By the way, none of it is true. You can tell who's bots based on the percentage of people watching, and our viewership is as high as it's ever been. It's all a mirage. It's all a fraud. Some people get jittery over it. Oh my God, I lost. I'm so sorry, Jimmy. You want to be in that cult? Go be in that cult. You disgust me. Okay. So now, I mentioned earlier, Glenn's become a right-winger, and you say, well, no. Or maybe he just doesn't believe in sexual harassment at large. Now, he says, oh, sometimes it happens, sometimes, I guess. But listen what he said here about an unrelated case.
Look what they did to Brett Kavanaugh with no evidence.
Yeah. Won't you think of all of those fake accusations of sexual assault? All of those women just making up the fact that they were sexually assaulted for clout. Like 99% of accusations of sexual assault are true. And less than 1% of them, less than 1% of people, victims of sexual assault who go to the police, have their assailants like prosecuted and convicted of a crime.
There was no evidence in the Brett Kavanaugh case. We all saw it. Glenn, what's wrong with you? But that lie doesn't even make any sense. We all saw it on national television. You saw Christine Blasey Ford. You saw her recounted. You saw the whole thing. We covered the test. Everybody covered the testimony. But apparently now Glenn thinks, no, there's no evidence against poor Brett Kavanaugh. Now you're beginning to get a sense of what happened to Glenn, okay? It's not me, it's him. He's saying it. Okay.
Brett Kavanaugh is a Supreme Court Justice, Draco Rath, who was accused of raping Christine Blasey Ford. And there was a extremely short 2-day investigation of him by the FBI. And of course they didn't turn up anything about like a 40-year-old case in 2 days.
Last one from Glenn about Anna.
What Anna Kasparian did here with that little message, I've not said this about you, I've kept it to myself, but now that you're criticizing us, that's all going to change. That is grotesque. That is ethically repugnant.
How? It's not blackmail. You're just talking about something that happened in the past, and you're going to start talking about it.
But it is also commonplace in liberal left politics.
Commonplace in liberal left politics. So apparently we're all guilty. Brett Kavanaugh is innocent. Jimmy Dore is innocent. But Anna is grotesque and morally repugnant. Guys, you all get to make a choice here. And if you say, yeah, I agree with Glenn, go have at it, Hoss. But it says something about you if you can't tell who's the morally repugnant one in this story. By the way, again, with the she's grotesque. Go ahead.
She got humiliated in the middle of the newsroom, and I did it.
And I just have to point out, guys, like, if you're standing by Aaron Mate, if you're standing by Jimmy Dore, if you're standing by Glenn Greenwald because of things that you think that are good that they've done in the past, and you are watching Jimmy Dore repeatedly recount a time when he sexually harassed someone, and need I play this clip again? Like, good golly.
Bullshit thing. I'm not responding to a fucking sleazy blackmail thing properly. I'm not using the proper words. Is that really the accusation? Yes, that was the accusation. And of course I showed Kyle Kalinske to be a complete full fucking outrage pearl clutcher because he had tweeted at Anna Kasparian before, hey, why don't you masturbate on camera? I bet you'd get more live stream viewers. And Anna Kasparian went back, I bet we'd get 6,000. So they're all fucking pigs. They're all fucking pigs, and they're trying to slime me, and it's not working.
Yeah, as you mentioned,
I didn't fucking talk about it the right way. I'm getting fucking smeared and in the sleaziest way possible, and I said inappropriate. Oh my God, Jimmy Dore said inappropriate. Did he say inappropriate? I'm gonna You don't want to punch Cenk Uygur in the face for smearing Julian Assange while he's being tortured. You don't want to punch Annika Sprayton in the face for tweeting out a fucking doctored video to smear an award-winning anti-war journalist. You don't want to fucking punch Cenk Uygur in the face for calling Jimmy Dore a neo-Nazi. You don't want to punch Annika Sprayton in the face for doing an obvious, blatant misuse of the hashtag #MeToo. You don't want to no, but Jimmy Dore said inappropriate when he had to defend himself against a fucking sleazy smear. That.
You're standing next to that guy. That guy whose response to being accused of sexual harassment that he confessed to numerous times on camera is to tell his viewers to go punch his political opponents in the face. Yeah, I guess confession is a bit charitable when he was bragging about having done it. You can't complain about people sliming you when you're the one who threw yourself into the slime pit, okay?